Hi all, welcome to the Defold beginner tutorial. We have a set of 10-minute videos that will lead you to a strategy game, and you got it right. You'll make a game yourself. You'll learn game development by example, you'll figure out how to use Defold game engine, and you'll get a game that works on iOS, Android, desktop, and browser. How cool is that? Below, you'll find all the links to all the assets like code, animations, and art, and feel free to jump to the topics of interest. I made it all convenient for you. So right, the whole training is 3 hours. This is part 1. Be sure to jump to the next part as you're ready, and you will be.
I work in a Defold team like these guys, and we're going to do about 3 hours worth of workshopping, building a small game based on some assets, some free assets that we got a very talented person to do for us. Those assets are originally made for an RTS style of game, but RTSs are a bit. It would be a little bit too much to try to build an RTS today, so we're doing something simpler with those assets. But you're free to continue working with them. Okay, so on the GitHub Repo there's also all the assets. This is the finished project that you can download and play with if you want. But if you click here on branch master, you see this, by the way. I'm going to make this larger. If you click here and then select tags down here, see that there are a number of steps, like 7 steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So those are like the project in increasing complexity. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create a simple game. We're going to learn about the building blocks in Defold, really simple stuff, try to put things together into something that works. We're going to look into what these building blocks are and how they work. They are a little bit different than what you might be used to if you come from Unity, for example. We're going to look at Lua scripting a little bit. It's not going to be advanced Lua scripting, but just the bare minimum to get you guys going. We're going to look into some very simple vector mathematics that we need to in order to do some simple calculations. It's not advanced stuff at all. We're going to look at spawning, which is something that you do a lot when you build games, and then message passing, which is the biggest hurdle, I would say, for people who come into Defold. How to use it, what it is, how it works, how it differs from what you do in object-oriented environments like Unity, for example. And we should start by creating a new project for today, and we do that by going to the Defold website and click login, and you use your credentials. It will pop up like with a Google login, and then you have the list on the side here with all your projects. I have a ton, and then at the bottom you have add project, and clicking that will allow me to add a new project. And let's name this something: Stockholm workshop. My take on the war battle. It's the package that we're using is called War Battles, by the way. So that's why we use that name throughout stuff. Okay, and we can choose to start from a tutorial here, but we're not doing that today because we're building this from scratch. So let's click no. I will start from a blank slate and click save. And now we have a project running. So that's all we have to do here. We can close this now and go back to the editor and click open project. And at the bottom, we will have the Stockholm workshop, or whatever you call your project. Right. So next question is select a branch. We don't have a branch. A branch is basically a local copy of that project that you work against. It is actually not a Git branch for those of you who know Git. It is a Git clone, a local clone of the repository. But it's called branch in editor 1. So just don't think about it as a Git branch, because that will confuse you. So let's call this, I don't know, work, not worm, right? And then finish. Well, we have that. Okay, now we're ready to go. Now we have a project set up, and we can start building this thing. The first thing you want to do when you have something is to, okay, where do I find stuff here? We have a couple of panes as we saw, and one of them has been filled with a little bit of information. We have a list of this Project Explorer. We have a little list of files, and this just mimics what we have on disk in the project structure. There are a couple of images, or one image. There's an atlas. There's something called a main collection, a game project. There's an input folder with something called input bindings. There's a built-ins folder that's grayed out, and it's grayed out because we can't write in this folder. It's built-in stuff that comes with the engine, like standard stuff that you can use. You can replace anything that is in built-ins with your own stuff if you need to. There's a default render script, for example, in the built-ins, and materials and the system font and a little bit of that. So we're not going to look into built-ins today, but all of these other things we're going to use. So what we have here is all the files, and double-clicking a file will open it. And in the center we have the big editor area where we can edit stuff. We can zoom in and out. If we click, depending on your keyboard, you can pan around as well. So we have this the project up and running, and going up to project build and launch will launch the game or this little project, and it's pretty much nothing at this point. It's a big empty screen, and there's this logo in the center, and that's it. If you want to, you can go up to preferences and click quit application on escape if you want. That's quite handy. It's in editor preference. Otherwise, whenever you run it, you will have to click this button or Apple or Control Q. But if you have that type, you can just hit escape, and it's nice when you want to have a rapid workflow. Okay, so running this, the first thing I'm going to do is to change the screen size a little bit. I think this is a bit too large for what we're going to do today. So opening up the file game.project will give us some options for the project. And there's a huge list of things that we can change, the title of the project, version, and stuff. If you want to name this, you can do that if you want. But let's scale it down to, let's say, 720 width and 720 at height. And we see that the file is altered. That's why we get this little star. So we need to save. Do that by going to File and Save. And you need to do that for all your changes before you run again. So running now, we see that we have a smaller game area. But now this logo is, of course, moved because it was centered against the bigger version. And let's just to illustrate what the different tools that you have available. Going back to the main collection, we can actually move this little guy by just clicking it or selecting it in the outline. We see that we have three things here. There's something called a collection here. At the top, there's something called the logo, and there's something called a sprite. And if we, for example, select logo and go up to the scene menu, we see that there are a couple of tools available. We have a select tool, which is the default one. There's a move tool, a rotate tool, a scale tool, and there's something called frame objects. The frame object just zooms into whatever you have selected, like that. But selecting something and choosing the move tool, for example, it looks like this. So you get some arrows, and you can grab hold of these arrows to move it up and down, or grab the center to move it wherever. There's also a rotate tool that allows you to rotate the stuff. And you see that there's actually 3 axes available. The blue one is the C axis. You rotate around C, but you can also rotate around the other axis if you want. like this. So see that you will get it is full 3D even though everything is flat. And what happens here whenever I rotate or move anything is that these properties down here change. So we see we have a position, we have a rotation, and there's a scale as well that we can change. And let's just for the sake of it alter the scale by using the scale tool, and you can scale in all directions. You can use this to scale, or you can just type in numbers. If I want to have like 3 times the scale and 3 times and 1 like that, for example, you can just type in the values. Right, that about those tools. So let's just delete this thing by right-clicking and select delete, because we're not going to use it, and then we can save it. We can also just delete the images folder, because we're not going to use the logo that's in there. And let's also delete the atlas, logo.atlas. So doing that and building again, we see that, okay, now it's really a blank slate. Now we don't have anything.